I've been trying to call. I've been on my own for long enough. Maybe you can show me how to love. Maybe I'm going through withdrawals. You don't even have to do too much. You can turn it on with just a touch, baby. I look around and since it is cold and empty, no one's around to judge me. I can't see clearly when you're gone. And I said, ooh, I'm blinded by the lights. No, I can't sleep right until I feel your touch. I said, ooh, I'm drowning in the night. Oh, when I'm like this, you're the one I trust. I'm running out of time, 'cause I can see the sun light up the sky. So I hit the road in overdrive, baby. Hit the road in overdrive. The city's cold and empty. No one's around to judge me. I can't see clearly when you're gone. And I said, ooh, I'm blinded by the lights. No, I can't sleep until I feel your touch. I said, ooh, I'm drowning in the night. Oh, when I'm like this, you're the one I trust. I'm coming back to let you know I can never say it on the phone. Whenever let me go this time. I said, ooh, I'm blinded by the lights. No, I can't sleep until I feel your touch. I'm blinded by the lights. No, I can't sleep until I feel your touch. Feel free to be whoever you want to be. Feel free to dance, feel free to sing, just feel free. Feels like the world is picking on ya. Feels like it's picking on me. But trying to please everybody, that ain't no way to be.
What's up, everybody? Two-Tone Talk Podcast, episode 79. That was my number when I played high school football right there. 79. Good to see everybody today on the Two-Tone Talk by God pod, and where we're staying way too high on the wins, way too low on the losses. Episode 79. So I know this is the Two-Tone Talk podcast. We talk about the Titans primarily, but really nothing new to talk about Titans wise. I mean, they're interviewing Nick Holes from Jacksonville to be their offensive coordinator today. They're building that coaching staff for Brian Callahan. I would expect maybe some hires to be made this week. I think Denard Wilson is the main guy people are wanting for defensive coordinator. So obviously we're all keeping an eye out for that, and we can talk more about that later. But today, even though this is the Two Tone Talk podcast, I want to start off by talking about those games yesterday. Got some people in the chat here on YouTube. Will Dotson says, "What is your take on the Royal Rumble?" Well, I will just say I thought it was all right. Now, it wasn't my favorite. Wasn't my least favorite. I thought the men's Rumble was pretty good. Some of you have no idea what we're talking about. Sportacular says, Brad, did you think that Lions game reminded you a lot of the AFC Championship game in 2019 for the Titans? Had momentum in the first half, then choked in the second. Well, it's funny you bring up that game between the Lions and the 49ers last night, because that's what I want to lead off with today. That's what I want to talk about first. The NFC Championship game last night between the Detroit Lions and the San Francisco 49ers. A game in which the Lions dominated the first half. They were up 24-7 at the half. And they ended up losing 34-31. And there were a lot of things, yes, there were a lot of factors that went into Detroit blowing that lead. Let me first of all say, I was rooting for Detroit. I wanted the Lions to win. I wanted the Lions to win the whole thing. Great story. It's the Detroit Lions. You know, they've been bad for my whole life. So I wanted to see Detroit win last night. I wanted to see Detroit win the Super Bowl. I want to see the Lions go all the way. And I thought they were going to at halftime last night. There's a lot of things that go into blowing a lead like this in such a big game. First of all, give credit to the 49ers. I mean, credit to Brock Purdy. I thought he played a great second half. I thought the 49ers, I mean, you know, they came out and stole it back from the Lions. But for Detroit, our old pal Josh Reynolds, former Titan, just with two terrible drops in the second half of this game. One on a fourth down where the Lions went for it and he dropped it. And then one on a third down that would have been a third down conversion. That one especially was awful. I mean, he just dropped it. But I want to talk about Dan Campbell. I like Dan Campbell. You like Dan Campbell. We all like Dan Campbell. Dan Campbell is a great success story. I wish nothing but the best for Dan Campbell. Like, how could you not like this guy? Right? Well, last night, in the second half of this game, in my opinion, Dan Campbell wet the bed. He wet the bed. I've thought this all year, and I haven't really expressed it much here on the podcast because we primarily talk about the Titans, but this mindset from Dan Campbell and the Lions that they've had all year, super aggressive, go for it on fourth down, go for it in your own territory, go for it on fourth down instead of kicking field goals or punting. They've done it a lot this season. That's been their MO. And everybody has loved it. Everybody has cheered and raved about the aggressive play calling of Dan Campbell and the Lions. And hey, that's great. That's great. Sometimes that's awesome. But I'm telling you, I've thought this all year. I could see this coming from a mile away. When you live and die by being aggressive like that, you're going to die at some point. This game, so often, it's those little things like that are the difference in games, especially in January and into February. Little things like that. And it's all fine and good to be aggressive. It's all fine and good to go for it on fourth down when you make it. But there's going to come a day where you're not going to make it. And it's going to cost you. Last night, it cost the Lions. And you could see it coming from a mile away. There is a point where there's a fine line where it goes from being fun and aggressive to being reckless. And last night, Dan Campbell, I love the guy as much as any of you. We all love Dan Campbell. Last night, it went from aggressive to reckless. This was reckless. 2 separate occasions. One point, they're up 24-10. They've got a chip shot field goal they can kick to make it a 17-point, 3-possession game. You have a chance to go up 3 scores. And you know as well as I do, even just as fans, being down by 3 scores feels a heck of a lot different than being down 2 scores. 27-10 feels a heck of a lot worse than 24-10. And who knows what that could have done for Detroit to know, man, we're up 3 possessions. Who knows what that could have done for San Francisco if they say, man, we're down 3, we got to score 3 times. We'll never know. Because, yeah, Josh Reynolds dropped a pass, but this is the NFC title game, man. It's the NFC championship. You're playing to go to the Super Bowl. And that aggressive stuff, man, you live and you die by it, and that means eventually you die. But then the most outrageous moment, later on in the game, the Lions are now down 27-24. They've had no momentum the entire second half. They haven't scored the entire second half, and they are in easy field goal range to tie this game up with around 7 minutes to go. And I couldn't even believe what I was watching. They went for it, and once again, they didn't get it. So you know what happened? The 49ers, who were already up by 3, could then smell the blood in the water. And they go down, score a touchdown, go up by 10, and it's over. I mean, it was over right then and there. I get that, like, this is what you're known for, is being aggressive and, doing things that nobody else would do, but there comes a time where it goes from being aggressive to just being flat out ridiculous. It goes from being aggressive to being flat out reckless. And that's what happened to the Lions last night. That's what happened to the Lions. Dan Campbell was reckless. And I saw a tweet earlier, because there's a bunch of people out there who were saying, well, I don't blame them for doing it. This is what they were. This is how they got here. This is who they are. You can't abandon who you are in this moment. Okay, well, how'd it work out for him then? For all of you who are defending what he did, saying he was right for making these calls, okay, he was right for sticking with his identity. All right, well, at least he'll have his identity when he goes to Cancun. At least he'll have his identity when the 49ers are preparing for the Super Bowl and they're sitting at home. Saw a tweet from Chris Sims that said it's dangerous to live and hide behind the "this is who we are, this is what got us here" stuff. The 49ers played their cover 3, cover 4 zone all year. It clearly wasn't working, so they adjusted and got out of it. There's a time where you have to be more concerned with being smart than being true to yourself in terms of a football team. I love Dan Campbell. I was rooting for the Lions. I'm bummed that they lost. I was so ready to root for them in the Super Bowl. That's part of why I'm so mad today. Because I sat there and I watched somebody be more concerned with living up to what we're known for instead of just winning the game. This isn't the Madden video game, man. This is the NFC Championship. And that leads me to this. I am stunned, both last night and so far today. I am stunned at the media people and the analysts who are defending this decision by Dan Campbell last night. They're going to great lengths to be like, oh, if you're criticizing Dan Campbell, you just need to stop watching. This is not his fault. The media, if you just listen close, they're telling on themselves. They're telling on themselves. They are flat out telling you, hey, we like Dan Campbell. Dan Campbell's one of our favorites. And so that means you're not allowed to criticize him. That means everything he does is right. Sound like any other coaches you know? Sound like any other coaches you know who a few weeks ago were fired and everyone in the media clutched their pearls because, oh, this guy's great. You'll never be able to find another coach like him. He's going to be able to have his choice of where he goes and coaches. 2 teams left looking for coaches, and he ain't got one of the jobs yet. Media telling on themselves. It's not that I think Dan Campbell's a bad coach. Dan Campbell's done a phenomenal job. And I'm not saying that they won't be back next year. But you can say Dan Campbell's a good coach and you like him, while also saying last night he played a part in costing his team this game. Luke already said it in the chat. If he kicks those 2 field goals, the Lions are probably preparing to play the Chiefs in the Super Bowl. But instead, we got to be aggressive. We gotta live up to our identity that people know us as being that aggressive Detroit team. How'd it work out for you, man? How'd it work out for you? It was ridiculous. It was reckless. And to defend it is even worse. Which, I mean, this is a problem not just in sports, but in society as a whole. We think that when we like someone and we cheer for someone, that means that we have to justify everything they do. And this is especially fitting considering in the United States, we're in a freaking election year. When did it cross over to, because I like this person, it is now my job to tell you that they're never wrong about anything? Because that's what we're seeing with this Dan Campbell thing. The guy completely made some horrible decisions last night that if any other coach made it, it would be the leading story on SportsCenter today about an all-time terrible call it was. But because it was him, it's just, oh, come on. That's what brought him to the dance. I have had someone on Twitter today. It was like, oh, you know, you can't blame him. That last drive there where he chose to go for it instead of kick the field goal, that was their last chance, and he knew it. Why was that their last chance? Not their last chance if you kick a field goal, tie the game. Then, worst case, if the 49ers march back down, score a touchdown, you can come back and try to tie it and send it into overtime. Listen, there are times when this aggressive stuff is fun. I'll give you a perfect example. When they played the Cowboys on that game where they got screwed by the referees, I thought it was a great decision to go for 2. A great decision. But when that penalty, I use that term very loosely, when the penalty happened that pushed him back to the 7 and he still went for 2, it's like, okay, now you've gone from being aggressive to being reckless. There has to be a line. There has to be a line. Because at some point, it feels like you're just being aggressive to be aggressive. Going for 2 from the 2-yard line, great. Going for 2 from the 7-yard line, reckless. You got to be able to tell the difference, and you got to be smarter than to not kick a field goal and tie the game with 7 minutes to go. You kick the field goal, you tie the game, you give your team a little bit of momentum, and you tie the game. Because what happened is the 49ers, after you didn't convert the 4th down, they march right back down, get a touchdown. Now they're up by 10. They're up by 2 scores now, and this game is essentially over. And I haven't even talked about the fact that the Lions ended up wasting a timeout because they ran it up the middle on 3rd and goal from the 1, got stuffed, and had to burn a timeout. Like, just a complete meltdown. I mean, this... And I feel bad for Detroit because they've had such a great season. I feel bad for the Lions because after all of those great wins they had, this is how it ends. And It's just brutal. I mean, this belongs right up there with the all-time playoff meltdowns. You had this game. You were outplaying the 49ers in every possible way. You had it. It was yours. And you just let it slip through. You let it slip through your fingers. And now a very long off season for Detroit begins because they're going to have to replace offensive coordinator Ben Johnson. He's either going to go coach the Commanders or the Seahawks. He's going to be the coach of one of those two, probably Washington. They got, Jared Goff. They've got to make a decision about him, and he seems awfully Tannehill-ish to me. Good quarterback, but one that in a couple of years you might say, oh, why'd we pay him so much? Let me get a sip of water before I talk about this other game. And I do want to say about the 49ers. A lot of people are upset that the 49ers are in the Super Bowl. A lot of people don't like the 49ers. I don't mind the 49ers. I don't mind them. If anything, I'm encouraged to see the 49ers doing so well because Ran Carthon had a big part in building what the 49ers are now, and now he's the GM of the Titans. So, in a way, I'm like, hey, I'm glad to see something he helped build doing well, because maybe he can do that here. As far as the 49ers, the debate still rages on about Brock Purdy. And let me say this, man, I got a lot of hard opinions today, but a lot of people are like, well, Brock Purdy, he's just a game manager. Brock Purdy, he's not as good as Justin Herbert or Lamar Jackson. He's not even a top 10 quarterback in the league. Look, we can debate that all day, but at the end of the day, and some people will disagree with this, but at the end of the day, who cares? If he's a game manager, who cares? If he wouldn't have the same success on any other roster, maybe you're right, but who cares? He's not on another roster. Well, if he didn't have Deebo Samuel, well, he does have Deebo Samuel. All that matter, like you can call him a game manager all you want. He's about to play in the Super Bowl. And he made some really nice plays last night in the second half of that game. So you can say whatever you want about Brock Purdy. But I'm just telling you right now, it doesn't matter. He's going to the Super Bowl. He's about to play in the Super Bowl. And if he wins, it ain't going to matter if it's because he's a game manager. I mean, you can ask anybody. Ask Nick Foles. Like, hey, Nick Foles, you're not better than this guy or that guy or that guy. And he'll probably say, yeah, I know I'm not, but who cares? I got the ring, man. I got the ring. If I'm a game manager, fine. I won a Super Bowl. If I benefited from being on a great team, whatever. I got the ring. I mean, who cares? Tell you what, Justin Herbert ain't nowhere near a ring. Trevor Lawrence ain't nowhere near a ring. I mean, my gosh. Congrats to the 49ers. Let's talk about the AFC Championship. 2 times over the last 5 years, the Baltimore Ravens have had far and away the best team in the league. 2019 and then this year. Far and away, both of those years, the Ravens have been the best team in the league both times. And both times, wet the bed in the playoffs. They have nothing to show for it. 2019, what were they? That was still a 16-game season, so what were they, 14-2? Got eliminated by the 6th seed Titans at home. Now, this year, I mean, they whooped everybody. They whooped everybody. They were far and away the best. And then yesterday, I don't even know how to explain what happened to the Ravens yesterday. There are a lot of people who are going to try to make this about officiating and referees and all of this stuff. There were a couple of calls in there that I would have probably been like, I'd call that, or I wouldn't have called that, whatever. I mean, there's a couple, but that's going to be the case every game. At the end of the day, most of the penalties that were called on Baltimore were penalties. I mean, just most of the flags that were thrown on the Ravens yesterday, when they showed a replay, I was like, well, that's a flag. That's a penalty. This looked like the Chiefs were in the Ravens' head from the second they showed up on the property. The Chiefs were in the Ravens' head from the second they showed up. And, I mean, the Ravens, who were a great running team all year, they ran 6 designed running back runs yesterday. 6. Do I need to tell you they lost? Lamar, who I thought was playing the best football of his career, I want to say I appreciate Sportacular for donating in the super chat on the YouTube chat. Appreciate that very much. It's literally the only way that I make any money off this podcast, which is fine. I love this pod. I'll do it for free. But I do appreciate any donations. Anyway, the Lamar, who I thought was playing as well as he has his whole career, I thought he was far and away the MVP of the league. I don't know what happened to the guy yesterday. I don't know what happened. I mean, the guy just... Why are we throwing bombs every time we drop back to throw? Why are we trying to throw it deep to Odell? This ain't 2017. Like, I just couldn't believe it. Obviously, you had the taunting penalty, which, yes, taunting is a stupid penalty. It's a stupid penalty in the first place. But it's been in the rule book for a couple years now, and you just have to be smarter than that. I hate it. I hate that taunting is a penalty, but they put it in the rule book, and as stupid as it is, you got to make sure you don't hurt your team. And standing up above a guy and flexing over him, as much as I wish that weren't a penalty, they're going to call it, and you have to know it. And then you try to reach the ball out, score a touchdown, and you fumble. And then Lamar Jackson, you're going to throw into triple coverage with like 7 minutes to go in the game? Throwing into triple coverage in the end zone? We can debate all day whether it was pass interference on the Chiefs. Some people think it wasn't called, whatever. Either way, why are you throwing into triple coverage to your second string tight end? Penalty or no penalty, what are you doing? I mean, and likely the guy that he threw it to, I mean, he acted like he's Randy Moss throwing his hand up, acting like he's got this. It's like, dude, you got 3 guys on you. Just, I'm telling you, I was stunned at how bad Lamar Jackson played yesterday. I picked the Ravens to win this game. I think the Chiefs' defense is the most underrated unit in the NFL. The Chiefs' defense is really good, and that's so not fair because they've already got Mahomes, Kelsey, Andy Reid. Now they've got a great defense, and that's just not fair. And the Ravens had a good defense too, but the Chiefs were better yesterday. And as far as listen, a lot of people are upset that the Chiefs are back in the Super Bowl. A lot of people are hating the fact that the Chiefs are back in the Super Bowl. Yeah, I hate it too. Somebody should beat them. I mean, maybe the Dolphins or the Bills or the Ravens should have beat them. Soul Snatcher said, do you think the NFL is scripted? No, I don't. I don't think the NFL is scripted. A lot of people thought the NFL was scripted because the colors on the logo, they're like, it's going to be Ravens 49ers in the Super Bowl because the colors on the logo tell you who's going to be in. Well, now that has been debunked, now we've shifted it to, the Chiefs are back in because of course they're back in because the NFL wants them back in. Can I tell you why the Chiefs are back in the Super Bowl? because they have a guy at quarterback who's probably going to go down as the greatest, at least the second greatest. By the time he's done, he may be first. He's going to have to do a lot to beat Brady, but I'm telling you, he is one of the best to ever do it. That's why they're back in the Super Bowl. Did you watch the play yesterday where he scrambled around for half an hour and then somehow found Kelsey, who is also one of the greatest tight ends to ever play? Top 3 for sure. And maybe not number 3. Andy Reid, one of the great offensive minds of all time in the league. That's why they're back in the Super Bowl. And as far as Taylor Swift, I mean, listen, I agree. When the first stuff started happening with Taylor Swift, when she first started showing up to the games, it was excessive. The camera on her all the time, that was excessive. I think she would even agree it was excessive. But like last week against the Bills, in a 3.5 hour game, she got 24 seconds of airtime. And that's probably 24 more seconds than she wanted. So, I mean, I don't really care about the Taylor Swift stuff. And like Luke said, I was just about to say this. Luke said the best play was the last third and long. You throw deep with confidence. I mean, yeah, that third and, what was it, 3rd and 6, 3rd and 7, something like that. If you don't get this first down, the Ravens are going to get the ball back with a chance to go down and tie. How many teams in this league trust their quarterback to throw a deep ball to Valdez-Scantling? It was 3rd and 9. Okay, so it was 3rd and 9. How many teams in this league trust their quarterback to throw a deep ball to somebody like Valdez-Scantling to put the game away? The guy's at another level. And you don't have, I said this last year after they won the Super Bowl, you don't have to like him. You don't have to like the Chiefs. You probably hate the Chiefs. But somebody should beat them then. And I'm telling you, the Chiefs, I didn't think they would get this far because if you remember, in the regular season, they didn't look that good. Christmas Day, they lost to the Raiders so bad that one of my good friends, who is a diehard Chiefs fan and has been since before they got good, he texted me Christmas Day and he said, I just want this season to end. Sick of watching this. Well, he's had a change of tone since then, because they're back in the Super Bowl. Can we at least do this? Can we stop painting the Chiefs as underdogs? Because last week against the Bills, they were viewed as underdogs. This week against the Ravens, they were viewed as underdogs. And now, according to the Vegas odds, the Super Bowl against the 49ers, they're underdogs. I don't care who they're playing. When they take the field, especially in January or February, they are not underdogs. They're the team to beat. Always. I don't care what the records are. I don't care how they looked in the regular season. As long as he's the quarterback, they will never, in my eyes, they will never be underdogs again. Ever. As long as he's there, and as long as they're in the playoffs, they're the team to beat. I had this thought yesterday because I know plenty of people who have just started watching the NFL because of Taylor Swift, and they're rooting for the Chiefs, and they're getting into it. And that's cool to me. I mean, it's cool to see people enjoying football that, you know, friends that I don't normally get to talk football with now all of a sudden want to talk about football. They want to know the rules and the players and all that, and I'm glad to tell them. Like, I'm glad there's more people getting interested in football. But I had this thought yesterday. I was like, these people that are just now coming along getting interested in football because they're watching the Chiefs, do they think that every quarterback is able to do what Patrick Mahomes does? Like, they probably do. They probably watch Patrick Mahomes and they're like, oh, that's just what quarterbacks do. No, it ain't. No, it ain't. To be fair, there are some things that Lamar normally does that I'm like, well, not a lot of guys that can do that, play in the quarterback position. But man, I'm telling you, I watched when I watch the Chiefs in relation to the Titans, because this is Two Tone Talk podcast, you take our team, for example. I watch the Chiefs, and that's what I compare. It's like, what do we got to do to beat them? What? Furthermore, what do we have to do to beat them in January? And I hope that in getting an offensive-minded coach, and we're gonna, hopefully have a totally different offense than we've ever had, and that's great. And I'm looking forward to that. I hope we don't just completely disregard how important it is to play good, sound defense too, because the Chiefs are playing great defense. The 49ers are known for playing good defense. I hope that we don't just totally. I mean, I want to get a good defensive coordinator in here, and a lot of people view Denard Wilson as the best option for defensive coordinator, and I'm fine with that. I just want to make sure that in getting excited about new offenses for Tennessee, in getting excited about, what could be with Will Levis or a Tyjae Spears or D-Hop coming back or a new receiver, a new offensive line, whatever, I hope that we still understand, in looking back on this season for Tennessee, the defense needs attention too. Our secondary, remember how bad our secondary was at times this year? When I watch teams like the Chiefs, and I watch teams like whoever, the Bills, insert name here, 49ers, Lions, like, man, I hope we improve our secondary. I really hope we get better at corner, because that's a part of the recipe of beating these guys. We talk about wide receivers, you talk about offensive line. Yes, all of that needs attention, but defensively, I thought our inside linebackers lacked a little bit of that spark that we've seen in the past from David Long and Jayon Brown and some of those other guys that we had. Not that Alshire and Gibby were bad, but it was just like, just wasn't the same, and you know it. But corner, inside linebacker, you could always use more pass rush. I know we got Arden Key. I know we got Harold Landry. I know we got Big Jeff. I hope we can work out something with Danico Autry, but I don't think it's likely. I mean, there's a lot of stuff on defense that the Titans need to look out for. And watching these playoffs and seeing the teams that are there, it's like, man, yeah, I agree. I'm excited about a new offense. Absolutely. I'm sick of watching what the Titans have been doing offensively. But defensively, let's not act like that we can just assume we're good to go there either. Don't forget, defense is a big part of this game. I have not played NFL grid games. I have not played that. We do. Oh, yeah, by the way, I just glossed over Wesley Barnes and his comment earlier that he would take Desmond Ridder over, who was it? It was Desmond Ridder over Brock Purdy. Oh gosh. But yeah, when I watch these teams that are left, I'm like, man, I hope we still have a good defense. Let's not totally get so enamored with offense that we forget we need help on defense too. A lot of people are asking about the draft. Everybody assumes the Titans are going O-line in the draft. Joe Alt primarily is who people are expecting. And I'll be great with that. I mean, we have to do it. But, man, watching Kelsey yesterday, I was like, if there's any tight end prospect that I've seen that could turn into that, it is Brock Bowers from Georgia. God, that'd be hard to pass up. Malik Neighbors from LSU. God, that'd be hard to pass up too. I get it. Offensive line, you gotta, the offensive line is so painful that it's like, how could we not go offensive line? But man, oh brother, I don't know, man. I will say, I mean, Detroit Detroit has a phenomenal offensive line. They had 3 first-round draft picks on that line. 3 first-rounders on that offensive line. So if you wonder why their offensive line is so good, we've got 1 first-round draft pick on our offensive line. Probably need to make it 2. But like Soul Snatcher said, I mean, our offensive line draft picks have not exactly worked out. Dylan Radins was a second-round pick, and we're still waiting on him to make a significant impact. Nicholas Petit-Frere, he was later. He was 4th or 5th round pick, and I feel like he's left a lot to be desired. But, and like Luke said, if we get a good O-line coach like Bill Callahan or Mike Munchak, maybe, a different coaching technique or style. I'll tell you this, Titans fans, as I get ready to wrap up here. I keep getting caught in this trap of when I look out over the offseason at the draft, free agency, trades, all of that stuff. I keep thinking about it in terms of like what Mike Vrabel would do. So I'm like, oh, we're probably going to pick up like the 15th best receiver and try to mold them into being our number 2 or something. Or, I keep thinking about it in terms of Vrabel, and I have to like program my mind to be like, hold on, this is a new day, new era. We don't, let's think about it differently. It's weird because, I'm used to thinking, like, what's the lamest thing possible? Like, I hate to say it, but that's how I've thought about it with Vrabel. Like, what's the, like, just most non-exciting thing that we could do? I'll look up the NFL grid games after I get done here. Was it like an app on your phone or something? Yeah, I'm having to reevaluate and be like, hold on, Vrabel's not here anymore. We can do something different. I don't know if Vrabel's getting hired either. There's 2 jobs left, Seahawks and Commanders, and I think at least, one of those is going to get Ben Johnson, and the other, I'm still thinking Bobby Slowick could be a name thrown out there. I still think Dan Quinn, but I think it'll be this week. Because now that the Lions and Ravens are out, I feel like those 2 teams were the 2 that had all the coordinators that people were wanting to interview. And so Aaron Glenn is a name too that people probably looking at as well. Bill Belichick did not get hired. And it's funny, these NFL teams are not as interested in the old school defensive coach mentality anymore. They want new guys. Who would have thought? Thank you guys for joining me on Two Tone Talk Podcast. Be back Friday to talk about whatever happens between now and Friday. And obviously, we've got 2 weeks to the Super Bowl, and it's the 49ers and the Chiefs. The Chiefs again. Last time the 49ers and Chiefs played each other in a Super Bowl, pandemic started just a couple months later. So let's hope that that's not an omen. Thank you guys for joining me on the Two Tone by God pod. Staying way too high on the wins, way too low on the losses. And I'll see you guys Friday. Appreciate you guys. Somebody just asked, am I going to do the power rankings? Might do it. Might do it Friday. One last little 32-1 NFL power rankings. We'll see. You can't ever tell. Thank you guys for joining me. Be sure to go follow me on Twitter at twotone_podcast and subscribe to the YouTube channel Two Tone Talk. Thank you guys. Tighten up. Bye.
Please everybody, that ain't no way to be. So many people try to get you to fit their mold. I I think it's time for a change. This is what I say. Feel free